Yes, like I was saying, yes, you discover that in Nigeria here we have some laws. One of them is the Child Rights Act. It gives the right to education to every Nigerian child. It is codified, it is law. And some states have already domesticated the provisions of the Child Rights Act. And why is it not being enforced? And then in the tertiary institutions and other institutions, government withdrew subsidy that was already there over the years. And then you are now saying that you are giving loans. Meanwhile, you have subjected the institutions to economic quagmire. There are subsidies that were always there before now that they use even for research and grants. Government withdrew those things and then came out to say yes, we are giving loans to students and so on. Now, what is the ripple, the aftermath of this hike in school fees and tuitions in universities? The other day, one of the universities, the students embarked on a protest because of the hike in the school fees. Now, you are saying that you want to make loan available to a certain number of people, whereas the majority that will not have access to the loans will now be out of school because they cannot afford to pay the school fees. It does not make sense. Put back the grants and the subsidies and allow as many people as possible have access to education.
Yeah, but the government is saying they do not have money to continue to subsidize some of those things.
Don't let us. Now, the same government is giving loans to students. They say go and get loan. You qualify, you get loan. Now, out of say 100 students, maybe 10 will be able to get the loan. The others that could not access the loan will now have to contend with paying exorbitant tuition. It does not make sense. Government must make sure that the issue of education is a priority. Because if the children are not educated, the future will be gloomy, will be bleak, and very bleak. Now, apart from the issue of education, another area that government need to do something as a matter of urgency is in the area of industrialization. There is no nation that develops without industrialization, and that is why we have always said that look, it does not make sense for one to be doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. It marks of madness. You are doing the same thing every time, over time, and you expect a different result. What we have been seeing over the years is that we have a structure where at the center money is there. This money are shared to the various states, and the governors go home with the monies and just spend them without accountability, without these things being done, and then they go back again. That has not solved the problem of this nation. What will go a long way to solve the problem of this nation is where we go into what is true federalism, where the center is there and the center will focus on some areas. For example, currency, military, customs, immigration, and then and defense. Then let the states go and thrive on their own.
Okay.
Let the various states embark on projects that will develop, that will give employment to the people of that state. And you see, when that is done, the federal government has no business legislating on minimum wage. Because you see, the irony of it is that the minimum wage of 18,000, some states just started paying it just about 2 months ago, when a new one is coming to place.
All right. Let's we'll come back to that. Let's we want to get your opinion on the issue concerning, because there's some issues that were of very great concern to the protesters and the organizers of this protest, or the issue of subsidy. Because as Barrister was saying, he talked about that the state are getting more money during this administration.
Yes.
Yeah, but the states are also complaining that the more money that they are getting are being eroded by the issue of inflation. Because when you look at the cost of things, if somebody who was getting, let's say, 1 billion as at when the foreign exchange market was at 450, and you are now getting 2 billion, you see there's a 100% increase in your allocation. But the foreign exchange is now 1.5. So you see that we are getting lesser money with value, in terms of value correlation, before, when we were getting 1 million, than now that they are getting 2 billion because of the foreign exchange differential.
Yes.
And that's what they call inflation.
Yes.
So, and which, of course, so many people have attributed to the removal of the subsidy, floating of the currency. So what do you have to...
I think the government...
Because the government have said that the removal of the subsidy was very good because the subsidy was bleeding the nations.
It's not subsidy that was bleeding Nigeria. It was not subsidy. I must tell you this. It's not subsidy that was bleeding this nation. It is corruption. And most of the wastages in governance, the excessive, reckless, ostentatious lifestyle of our politicians. A lot of our money is being repatriated outside this country. That's why we are having this financial or economic crisis majorly. Now, having said that, let me also say this, that our states, most of our states, or the state governors, and those who are running the states, they are not honest, they are not sincere. The truth of it is that most of the problem we are ascribing to the national government, that is the federal government, ought to be their body. Because the state is where you have all Nigerians. Every Nigerian belongs to one state or the other. And the failure of governance at the state level is why we are having this national crisis. Because if our local government structure is providing many of these basic amenities, and the state government are providing some of these basic amenities, then there will be less pressure on the federal government. That's the other side of it, the flip of the coin. All right? But our state governors are just not doing anything. Most of them are stealing the funds. And most of them are so rich, richer than even their state. So I think the idea that we don't have enough resources to provide infrastructure and all of that, I don't subscribe to that.
So you believe that the subsidy should be
and also
back?
our governors, I will still talk about the subsidy. Our governors are not innovative, they are not creative. All right, most of our states have potentials to create wealth.
Yeah, but sorry, you said this. We need to round up on this issue of the relationship between the states and the federal government. You said some. Of course, most of the states have attributed non-performance to the way Nigeria is structured, and you have said that the governors are not creative.
They are not doing their own bit.
Yeah, you said they are not. Do you think there is a structure because we have about 36 states of the federation?
Yes.
Can we now say that 36 all the 36 state governors are not creative? Would you want to say? Don't you think that the structure, the way the structure of Nigeria could be tying the hands of some of these states? Because we can't. If all of them are not doing well.
Kenneth, I agree with you that we have a geopolitical problem, which is structural in nature. But the truth of it is that even with doing this geopolitical deformed structure that we call a state or a nation, you still find that the governors are dependent on whatever allocation they are getting from the center. There is not much of creation of wealth at the state level, and even the money that is coming into the state are not used for social infrastructure. They are not used for the benefit of the people. The same thing with the local government funding. Thank God for the new decision by the Supreme Court to liberalize and directly give funds to local government to function. But the truth of it is that maybe some of these social unrest and protests should be directed at governors and the local government.
All right,
then we'll have more productive.
Yeah, but seeing all this state government and the relationship, let's get forward. Wrap up on this because we're talking about the structure. He has attributed some of the issues to non-performance of the state government at the state level. So we are, for me, my question is, I want to know, is it a structural problem now? Because you see so many of the state government not performing, their non-performance. Or is it that the government have not created incentive? Because you said we are not creating enough resources from the local level in order to supplement what the federal government is doing. Is it that the structure does not incentivize creativity of the states? You know, because you see the constitution saying that if you develop your natural resources, it's for the federal government, and you know, it's because it doesn't have to do with a structural problem, or it's just a behavioral or.
Yes, you see, the problem of the country has been there over time. And what is that problem? Nigeria has undergone too long period of military rule that Nigerians are now conditioned to hardship, just like the late fella would say, yes. Suffering and smiling. We have a system that is more like a unitary form of government, so we call it federal. And then what has been the norm is that the governors and the states collect money and go back and do whatever they want to do without any serious checkmating on these things. And even at the federal level, a healthy government is a government that the executive is always on its toes, because the legislators are there checkmating seriously the executive, and the judiciary there ready to curb the excesses of the executives. That is the beauty of democracy. That is where things move the way they should be. But in a situation as we have, where the legislators and the executives appear to be the same, good bedfellows, they are in tandem. There's never any. In fact, some people refer to the legislators as rubber stamp. Whatever is presented by the executive, they just assign it. That is not healthy for our development. And of course, the courts. You recall the years, previous years in the Supreme Court, where the likes of the Soputa, Kayode Show, Obaseki, Nameka, these people will tell the government to the face of the government that what you've done is not right. You cannot, you cannot disobey the court, the order of a court, and come to the same court seeking for indulgence. That would be an attempt to infuse timidity into the court, and they will never take it. Today, how many of our judges, are ready, like the to call off whoever, you understand? Because the story of Justina, he was made to subjected to certain things, and he gave order and insisted that his order must be obeyed. And when they tried to cajole him or cross him, he insisted, and he had to bow out gallantly. You understand? So we need a structure where there will be checks and balances.
Yeah, but that brings up the issue of the rule of law. The rule of law,
yes,
as a part of the fundamental aspect about democracy.
Yes, you see that
there's erosion of the rule of law, because we'll see some of these things, erosion of the rule of law.
Yes, yes,
part of,
yes. In the various states, the governors and the members of the state house assemblies, they are just together. Whatever, they just do things. But you remember in those days when the legislator will say no, this will not be done. They will bring a budget. They will now want to find out why that money will be spent on that project. But those era is gone. What we see today is where even the legislators are said to pardon even the budget. The government will present, the executive will present a budget, and then they will add to it. They will pardon it. Those are the allegations we are seeing today, and that is the cross of one of the major problems: corruption. You see, those that are supposed to stop evil are the ones that are pampering evil. How can the nation move forward? Look at Burkina Faso. The other day I saw what the president is doing there. The leader there, though a military man, I saw medical equipment in vehicles going to the rural areas It's not as if I subscribe to military administration in any form, because the worst civilian government is better than the best military administration. But this is a man that the vehicle he is using is 2011 model. He bought 2024 model for a medical doctor that will go to those rural areas and make it healthcare available to the people. Then they have food and other amenities. That is what Nigerians are asking for. They're not asking for too much. They say they want to have welfare. Let this nation move forward. We can't keep on borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. And do you know what? Because the other day, we were just saying, why is Dangote having issues with the issue of crude and so on? That our crude has been mortgaged. We use loans to mortgage our crude. And then, where do we go from here? We must get back to the drawing board and then show that things move forward the way they should be. All this loan that Nigeria is collecting, it's easy to get loan, but when it's come to payment, that is where the problem arises. So Nigeria is a nation that we need to address, and I believe that one of the ways to address is to, have a new constitution that will put in place structure that will work. When somebody asks, what kind of democracy do we have? Do we have a different brand of democracy? If you look at our democracy, one of the things that people, look at the parameters of democracy is participation, popular participation by the populace in governance. And how is that measured? Participation during politics, when people come out to vote. If Nigerians, like we saw in the recent past, people are saying that their votes never counted and they will not come out again, it's not good for democracy.
All right. But,
yes, I want to say that, you see, most of the problems that we have are interconnected. Now, if you don't, and the fundamentals of it is the provision of education. If you don't provide education for your people, there is no way you can make progress as a nation. Then also, food production. The agriculture, what stops us from having an agricultural revolution in this country? It is problem of security. Right now, nobody can farm. There is no food production. All our farmers are afraid of death. The forests are all taken over, whether in Enugu or in Ibadan or in Ekiti or anywhere. The Fulanis are all in the forest. So people are afraid. And if you can produce food domestically, then there will be hunger in the land. That's one of the problems. So that has to be addressed. And it is until you have an agricultural revolution that you can have what my good brother is talking about earlier, about industrialization. There's no how you can develop agro-based industries when the products are not available. And of course, energy, they will tell you for industry, if you want to have an industrial policy, then we need an energy policy. There should be electricity. People should be able to generate and produce. All of these are not in place. So, talking about bad governance, and I think it's a chain event, it's a series of events that have led us to where we are. And unless we address these basic problems, we'll be having a failed state in our hand.
Okay, so because we're almost getting to the end of the program. So, did you think that the protest, was achieved its purpose?
Yes, the protest in at least has addressed the issue that are bothering Nigerian populace. And the protesters have said that they have shelved their protest till 1st of October. If by then noticeable change is seen, they may call and they continue. I wouldn't want protests to continue because most times some hoodlums hijack it and destroy lives and properties. This one that took place, some lives were wasted. But then it is incumbent on government to live up to its obligation, because if the government is doing that which ought to be done, there wouldn't have been present in the first place. But I believe that yes, it's a signal that yes, Nigerians are not docile set of people, that they can rise up and demand for good governance, and that is what has happened. Is, I believe that at least, if not for anything, it has jolted the government, and government is now trying to do something to address the issues, even though the address, like I said earlier, was a disappointing speech. The core issues were not addressed. And then we also know that it's not only Nigeria people protest. In fact, what Nigeria can condone, 1/10 of it will spark protests in other countries.
All right, let's quickly, because we're almost let's quickly, because you are a lawyer.
Yes.
It's also it's good that we round up this program by getting your perspective, because some people have argued that rule of law is also very, very important. Sometimes the judiciary, which comprises of the bar and the bench, seem to be a little bit isolated, in all of this. And some people have, of course, as we know, a democracy is made up of the executive, the legislators, and the judiciary.
Yeah.
So, of course, it will be very, very bad if we don't call out the role of the judiciary, because they are the ones to safeguard, to ensure that the law is respected. And when we talk about corruption, some people have argued that it's because of lack of consequences, that enables people to loot the money and go away, because they feel that nothing will happen, both at the state and the federal government. And of course, this points, the Torchlight points squarely on the judiciary. So what do you think is the role of the judiciary in all of this? Or do you think that the next protest should be going towards the judiciary and not the
let me start with the bar. Those of us at the bar, we are not involved in much advocacy the way we should. The bar has failed Nigeria, particularly the leadership of the bar. It's as if we have condoned so many of these actions of government for so long. We don't have a bar that will engage government, that will ensure that the government perform its duties to the nation, first of all. So the bar is involved in this problem. Now, secondly, the judiciary. Our judiciary today is timid. There is need for courage. And the judiciary should not see itself as an appendage of the executive, and neither take instruction from the executive. It's unfortunate, I don't want to say this on air, but I just concluded a case in the Supreme Court, and judgment was given to us in my favor. And I'm so shocked that the next day the Attorney General called us that he had benefit of seeing the judgment and he has read it, and that he wants us to discuss. I was shocked how an Attorney General will get a judgment that was read a previous day, and I perused it and I've gone through it to the point. It shows that even the Supreme Court have not insulated itself from the executive. So it's very bad for our democracy and our rule of law, and it's unfortunate. We have situations where judges have to give judgment for the convenience of the executive, like the ex parte order in this particular protest that came up. I don't know how a judge will give an ex parte order, to dictate how people should conduct protests. It is an aberration. The right to peaceful assembly, the right to freedom of movement is enshrined in the Constitution. So when the judiciary becomes a tool and a weapon of the executive, then we have a despotic government.
We're almost out of time. So let's just get to the last word before.
So my last word is this: that there is a need for us to engage government more. Those of us at the bar, the people of Nigeria, the populace, and I think that's why this protest is coming on. And on the part of the government, there is a need for more consultation. There is a need for them to listen to the Nigerian people, not for them to assume they know what is good for the people.
All right. Now, let's just get to a little bit wrap on this judiciary and your final word before we call it today.
And the part of the judiciary, I believe that the judiciaries in Nigeria, the judges should live up to the expectation of the masses, because Nigerians and in fact the entire world believe that the last hope of the common man is the judiciary, and so the judiciary must live up to that and should also be able to checkmate the government. That is the essence of it. We know that even when Nigeria was still under colonial administration. The then Governor General did something, and the court still said no. The court of the Privy Council said no, you cannot do this, even though you are the executive and legislature in one, because you don't have the powers under the law to do it. Our courts to come up with one, the doctrine or the supremacy of the constitution and the law. Once the government has done anything that's outside the confines, the duties of government, the court will be able to say no, this is unconstitutional.
That's courage.
Yes, and of course, for the government there is still hope. If from today the government will sit down and come up with policies that will have the welfare of the people, embedded therein, there may be no more process, or at least in the near future.
All right. Thank you very much.